French toast. French toast has nothing to do with France. The earliest known recipe appears in a Roman cookbook from the 4th century called Apicius, which describes bread soaked in milk and egg, then fried in oil. Medieval Europeans called it pain perdu in French, meaning lost bread, because it was a way to use stale bread that would otherwise be thrown away. The name French toast appeared in print in America in 1871 and stuck, even though the dish predates France as a country.
Avocado toast. Avocado toast became a global phenomenon in the 2010s, driven almost entirely by social media and cafe culture. The dish existed long before its viral moment. Australian cafes were serving it in the 1990s, but Instagram turned it into a cultural symbol. In 2017, an Australian millionaire sparked international controversy by suggesting that young people could afford to buy homes if they stopped spending money on avocado toast. Avocado prices spiked globally as demand surged, and Mexican avocado farmers saw their incomes triple within a decade.
Bruschetta with tomatoes. Bruschetta originated in central Italy as peasant food, stale bread rubbed with garlic, drizzled with olive oil, and topped with whatever was available. The word comes from the Italian bruscare, meaning to roast over coals. Italian farmers used bruschetta to test the quality of their newly pressed olive oil each harvest season, tasting it directly on toasted bread before selling it. The tomato version that became globally famous is actually a relatively recent adaptation. Tomatoes only arrived in Italy from the Americas in the 16th century. The most iconic Italian appetizer in the world contains an ingredient that Italy did not have for most of its history: cinnamon sugar toast. Cinnamon sugar toast is the first thing millions of American children learn to make themselves. Butter on white toast, cinnamon and sugar sprinkled on top, placed under the broiler for 2 minutes. The recipe requires no skill and produces results good enough that adults continue making it decades after childhood. Cinnamon has been used as a flavoring since ancient Egypt and was once so valuable it was used as currency and offered to gods. By the time it reached American breakfast tables, it had become cheap enough to shake onto buttered toast without a second thought. The most ancient luxury spice became the defining flavor of American childhood mornings.
Egg in a hole. Egg in a hole has over 40 names in English alone. Egg in a basket, toad in a hole, bullseye, gashouse egg, one-eyed jack. The dish is identical regardless of the name. A hole is cut in a slice of bread, butter is added to a pan, the bread goes in, an egg is cracked into the hole, and both are cooked together until the white sets and the yolk remains runny. It appeared in American cookbooks as early as 1896. The dish went viral multiple times on social media, despite being over a century old, because each generation discovers it independently and believes they have found something new. Bruschetta with burrata and prosciutto. Burrata was invented in Puglia, southern Italy, in the 1920s by a cheesemaker named Lorenzo Bianchino, who created it to use leftover cream and mozzarella scraps. For decades, it was eaten only locally, because burrata spoils within 24 hours of being made. Refrigerated shipping made it available internationally in the 2000s. Food media discovered it in the 2010s and declared it the most luxurious cheese in the world. By 2025, burrata on toast had become the defining dish of upscale brunch menus globally. A cheese invented from leftover scraps in a small Italian region became the symbol of sophisticated dining on every continent within a single decade.
Peanut butter and banana toast. Peanut butter and banana on toast was Elvis Presley's favorite food. He ate it constantly and in extreme quantities, sometimes requesting it grilled in butter as a sandwich. Peanut butter was invented in 1884 as a protein source for people who could not chew meat. Bananas became affordable in the United States after refrigerated shipping made tropical fruit accessible inland in the early 1900s. The combination became a staple of American athletic culture in the 20th century because it delivers carbohydrates, protein, and potassium simultaneously. Elvis turned it into a cultural reference. Nutritionists turned it into a pre-workout recommendation. Both groups were right for completely different reasons.
Lox and cream cheese toast. Lox is salmon that has been cured in salt for days without smoking, producing a silky texture and intense flavor distinct from smoked salmon. The word comes from the Yiddish lax, meaning salmon, brought to New York by Eastern European Jewish immigrants in the late 1800s. Cream cheese was invented in New York in 1872. The combination of lox and cream cheese on a toasted bagel or bread became the defining brunch dish of New York Jewish culture and eventually spread globally as New York food culture spread globally. A dish assembled from an immigrant curing tradition and an accidental dairy invention became one of the most recognized brunch items on Earth. Ricotta and honey toast. Ricotta means recooked in Italian and is made from the whey left over after producing other cheeses. It was invented as a way to use what would otherwise be discarded. For most of its history, ricotta was considered peasant food, the cheese made from the leftovers of the cheese-making process. Social media transformed ricotta toast into one of the most aesthetically desirable breakfast items of the 2020s. Food photographers discovered that white ricotta on toasted sourdough with golden honey drizzled over the top photographed beautifully. A cheese made from dairy waste became a premium brunch item because it looks good on Instagram. The transformation took approximately 3 years. Mushroom bruschetta. Mushroom bruschetta became the most ordered vegetarian option at Italian and Mediterranean restaurants globally in the 2010s, as plant-based eating moved from niche to mainstream. Sautéed mushrooms on toasted bread with garlic and herbs deliver a depth of umami flavor that satisfies meat eaters and vegetarians equally. Mushrooms contain glutamates, the compounds responsible for umami, in concentrations similar to aged Parmesan and cured meats. This is why mushroom dishes consistently satisfy people who believe they cannot enjoy a meal without meat. The mushroom bruschetta does not pretend to replace meat, it simply delivers the same flavor signals through a completely different ingredient. Shibuya Honey Toast. Shibuya Honey Toast originated in the Shibuya district of Tokyo in the early 2000s at a cafe called Lotteria. A thick block of Japanese milk bread is hollowed out, the interior is cubed and toasted separately, then reassembled inside the shell with ice cream, fruit, whipped cream, and honey poured over everything. The construction is architectural, the consumption is chaotic. Japanese cafe culture spread Shibuya Honey Toast across Asia in the 2000s, and it arrived in the United States through Asian American communities in the 2010s. By 2025, it appeared on menus from Los Angeles to New York. A Tokyo cafe dessert designed to photograph well became globally recognized because it photographs extremely well.
Pesto and mozzarella toast. Pesto was invented in Genoa in the Italian region of Liguria, where basil grows in particularly aromatic conditions due to the coastal climate. Traditional pesto genovese uses only 7 ingredients: basil, pine nuts, parmesan, pecorino, garlic, olive oil, and salt. The European Union granted pesto genovese protected designation of origin status, meaning only pesto made in the Ligurian region with local ingredients can legally use that name. Every pesto sold outside Liguria is technically an imitation. Americans consume pesto in quantities that would alarm a Ligurian farmer. The combination of pesto and mozzarella on toast delivers the entire flavor profile of Italian summer in a format that requires no cooking skill whatsoever. Garlic toast. Garlic bread is the most universally beloved side dish in the world and exists in some form in almost every food culture. The Italian-American version, white bread spread with garlic butter and toasted, became standard at American Italian restaurants in the mid-20th century. Surveys consistently show that garlic bread is the side dish Americans would most regret removing from restaurant menus. It outsells every other bread option at Italian-American chain restaurants by margins that food service companies describe as not close. Garlic contains over 30 sulfur compounds that activate simultaneously when crushed or heated, producing a smell so powerful it has been used as a natural pest deterrent for centuries. The most effective pest deterrent in agriculture also happens to be the most popular bread topping in the world.